This is the drip tape we put under our strawberries, under our tomatoes. We put drip tape down the grape rows. We use drip tape everywhere because our whole system is built with the drip tape, including the pressurized from the pressurized irrigation and filters and valves and everything goes right into the drip tape system. I was just going to show the label on this. This is 5/8 drip tape, and it's 6 mil thickness. You can get thinner, you can get a lot thicker, but 6 mil, 8-inch spacing on the little drip emitters, and the drip emitters put out 0.67 gallons per minute per 100 foot at 8 pounds pressure. I run my main system at somewhere between 10 and 12 pounds pressure, so that by the end of the system out there a ways, it's still maintaining 8 to 10 pounds pressure. It doesn't put out a lot of water, saves a ton of water, and of course underneath plastic, as we do here, it won't use very much water anyway because it can't evaporate. The plants use up the water, but and you might think because it's hot under that black plastic that it will evaporate, but it doesn't. It just keeps things warm and keeps the weeds down. Now let's take a look at the beginning of the system. We use a pool filter. The water comes in at 50 pounds pressure down here, and that's too much. At 50, 55 to 60 pounds pressure, this pool filter will explode. It'll just go boom and split all open and make a mess. Sand going everywhere. You can see here, this is a stay right. Its pressure rating is 50 pounds, but I wouldn't trust it. We've had one go up to 50. Sometimes the system goes over 50, so we throttle it. I throttle it right here with a manual valve, and I can see the pressure up here on the output. There's also a pressure gauge on the pool filter, but it's old, and this is a lot easier to monitor right here. I can see what's going out, and anything this side of the valve is pool filter, drip tape, valves, everything is the same temperature, or same pressure. So it comes through the filter. I'll be hooking it up because Monday the New York Canal in Boise turns on from Lucky Peak Reservoir, and we get water. This system is pumped out of the canal, so it's river water. It comes to the house on every day, but Thursday they turn that pump off over there to help save electricity, so nobody has water in the irrigation system on Thursdays. But all other days we have water accessible. And there's a schedule for watering your yard in the neighborhood. So it comes through here and goes through the filter, goes through another filter, and then we have zones. The one zone goes out to the grapes. The second zone goes across the road to the smaller size of a garden. The one zone doesn't go anywhere, and the right zone goes to feed the strawberries and anything this side of the system. So it comes through the pool filter, through the valves here, and then down below we also have a little filter, 300 mesh filter, and on top of that we have a little protector. This is a 10 psi pressure reducer that keeps everything from being too strong in the drip tapes themselves, so we don't blow out drip tapes. So even though I might have 15 pounds on this side, up to 20 pounds sometimes, what goes beyond the 300 mesh filter and the little screw-in hose thread pressure reducer, 10 psi pressure reducer, everything past that is 10 pounds. And the system's supposed to run on 8. So I keep it loaded up and it works great. We come on out here and you can see first row into the cucumber. Has a little valve on it. You can turn it on and off. It's pretty stiff this time of year, just showing that it's new. You can take the drip tape off and put a new drip tape on, like that. This is new drip tape last year, so I'm going to use it for 2 years in a row and then see how well it does by the end of the year. We may even do a third year. Here's our first connection for the strawberries. That will go into the valve that we used last year. One year we experimented with a double wide row, and that was very difficult to pick. It was really hard to kneel there and reach the middle of the row across there like that. So we went back to one drip tape with two rows closer together. They're closer to the drip tape. The plants are probably less than a foot apart, and it only needs one drip tape. You can see other drip tapes along the way here. We'll plant some potatoes and carrots. We have on our raspberry rows, we have two drip tapes going down they're probably a foot to a foot and a half apart in there, all the way to the end on both rows of spring-bearing raspberries. These are Titans and these are Canbys. They only produce the first 3 or 4 weeks of July, and that's it, and then they shut down. Our fall-bearing ones over here, all the rest of these are fall-bearing, and they produce from about August 15 or 20. They start producing. On canes I've cut completely off, they'll produce till it freezes from the middle of August. Now you see some over here. If I leave these go, I haven't cut these off to the ground yet. These are Joan Jay and Himbo Top, and they will produce this spring. You can see they made berries last year on the cane. This is last year's cane, and they made berries until it froze right to here. So this spring, if I left this cane, it would produce from here down a ways, and then about 1st of August they would start dying back, and the new growth would come up and have been starting to flower and bloom and begin producing toward the end of August, I'm guessing, till it freezes. So instead of managing 2 sets of canes, we cut them off. You can see a big pile of canes here. Across the way we have a 60-foot row of Polana. You can't see any canes. Here's a row of Great Autumn Britain. I left a few canes just because they're too far out in the row and I'll transplant them, but we cut those off and you just can't see them, but they're there. And they will come up and they will be very productive this fall. Yeah, I cut them quite low. There's a cane. Because if you leave very much, it will grow, and then you'll have these little 1 foot canes, fruiting spurs near the ground that are hard to get to, and they make a mess. So if I cut them right off at the ground, they won't do that as much. All we'll get is growth that will produce this year on a new cane instead of something growing off of an old cane stump. We're going to start pruning the grapes today. I was just going to show you the same drip tape comes to the end of the grape row, and there's a connector. This little unit works. It's slotted on the inside with a larger opening to the back side. So you slide it over the end of the drip tape, fold the drip tape back 3 times, and then pull this back onto the folds, and it locks it right in place. This is a 3/4 inch poly pipe that I use for my main on the smaller end side of the garden. On the larger side of the garden we use 1 inch. These little valves, you just use an awl and poke a hole in the main tubing in the poly, and then punch that in there, and it seals up. It folds back out against the little punch side of the valve and seals up pretty good. And it's so small that it can't bleed a lot, but it puts out plenty of water for as little water as the tape uses. Got connectors. Remember, this whole system is only 10 or 15 pounds pressure. And then if you go to the end of the road down here, just down to the end of the main line, I can put a valve on it, but on this one I just put a cap, so that in the fall I can unplug that cap and drain it here. Make sure there's no water in the system that'll freeze to break the lines. We built a sunshade for our irrigation filter system because the sun will bake the PVC, bake all of the plastic parts, and of course that makes it rotten over the years, and then anything that's rotten under pressure will break, or anytime you wiggle on it it'll break, so that helps them last a lot longer. And while I'm out here working on it in the sun, I have some shade. Don't need that today because it's cloudy. It's really nice. I have a Venturi fertilizer injector that goes right here in the system. This is a Venturi fertilizer injector, and it's only 1/2 inch, or is that 3/4? It looks like 1/2 inch. So what it does is the pressure comes in from this end, goes all the way through, and if it's lower in pressure above the output than it is below the output, then it will create a Venturi or a suction effect, and it'll suck stuff in and blow it up the top. And that sucks out of this bucket right here. So we can put liquid fertilizer in the bucket. And we do. We use Epsom salts. We use liquid iron. We use liquid manure tea. Anything that we can use that's liquid to help keep the plants healthy throughout the year, especially iron. It's been a problem. I can put in this bucket and suck up into the system. Another thing we do with fertilizer, after the strawberries are established, they will last this year and next year, and then the following year we will take them out. So next year we worry a little bit about iron, but I can take the plastic back, I can pull the carpet back, I can lift the plastic, and I can sprinkle iron fertilizer up along the plants on both sides in the spring early, and that helps keep them healthy and keeps them from yellowing as bad. Here's the 300 mesh filter that screws on right there. You can get those at all the hardware stores and the sprinkler aisles. In the winter time, we pull the plug on this end. You see the filter is out. There's plugs at the bottom of each of these systems. We open this, take the plug out of the bottom of that, we take the cap off the filter so it doesn't freeze. Let everything drain, pull all of the system pieces apart, take the head off of the pool filter, because if you leave that sitting there, it's filled with water, and there's no way to get all the water out of it, even with a pressurized air system. So we take it into the shop and let it dry out for months before we set it back out on the cold shelf. Otherwise the head splits where the water freezes. These have 60 mesh and 100 mesh filters and 30 mesh filters. They're just a just-in-case filter. And we take the filter out of the casing and take it inside, because if those fill up with water at all, they will also split. They're screens, they're fine mesh screens, and they will split. Have to keep everything completely drained. In the main system here, the valve turns on with a long key down the hole there. So one way the system is on, that's okay, we get water pressure when the water is running. When you turn the valve completely off, it lets everything above the valve drain. It's just the type of valve it is. There's a little drain hole that knows that it's turned off all the way, and it'll allow everything above, so everything that from the ground on up into the system here will drain back out that hole down there. If it didn't do that, it would be like my greenhouse, where I'd have to create a valve to open for drain, separate from the main on valve.